Hello and welcome to our ninth session in this modifier section, and in our deform category we are now going to deal with our third modifier, which is the curve modifier. I will come into the blender and I have the default cube here. So to begin with, I will leave the cube as it is, and for this cube I will come into the modifier, and in the add modifier deform I will come and add a curve modifier. And as of now this curve modifier is not going to work because you can even see the red mark here appearing, indicating that in my scene there are no curves as of now available. So I have to first add a curve. So I will press Shift A and I will add a simple curve circle. Then I will press S and I will scale it up like this. Now I will select my cube back, and in the curve object now I will come here and I am going to select this Bezier circle. And as soon as I select this Bezier circle, you can now see that my actual cube went and sat in the path of this curve. And now if I select my cube and if I press GX and if I move it along the x-axis, you can see it is moving exactly in the path of my curve. I will cancel this by right clicking it. Then this axis is determined by this deform axis. The deform axis is right now set to x, and to understand this better I will select this cube, press tab, and in the edit mode I will press 3 on number and I am going to select the top face. I am in the face selection mode. I am now going to press I and I am going to insert it like this. Then I will press E and I am going to pull out a structure like this. So I have pulled out a structure like this and I will press tab. Now you can see that when it is along the x-axis, it is going to take this path. If I change this to y-axis, you can see how the axis is changing, and if I change it to z-axis, it is going to move along this path. And here, since I doesn't have sufficient geometry here, this is not moving in the curve. So now if I press tab, come into the edit mode, press Ctrl R, and if I add some geometry here, I will left click and click again. And now if I come here and if I add some 10 loop cuts here, then if I press tab, you can now see that this is taking the curve path. Okay, so this is moving along the curve path. So when I move it in Z, it is taking this path. Minus Z means it will take the opposite path. Minus Y means it will go down, and minus X means it will be in this path. So like this, I can choose the axis in which I want this deformation to happen. Now I will set this back to X, and now I have this structure here like this. And now say for example I want this to move around here, I can do it in two ways. And as of now I will select this cube, I will press Shift D and make a duplicate, and I will just switch it off because I am going to now come into the original cube here. Then I will press here SX and I am going to scale it like this. So when I scale it along the x-axis, you can now see that it is moving along the curve path, but I am not seeing this curvature because in my geometry I doesn't have sufficient amount of loop cuts here to take the curve path. So if I press tab, come into the edit mode. Now if I press Ctrl R and if I add some loop cuts here like this, I will left click twice, and then if I press tab, now you can see that this is taking the path of my curve. So either I can add more geometry and scale it along the x-axis and I can create the structure like this, or I will switch off this cube and I will enable cube.001 now. The other way of creating this kind of structure is I can use the array modifier along with the curve modifier. So now what I will do is I will come into add modifier, and in generate I am going to add an array, and say now if I add some 3 array, as of now this doesn't have the right effect because the array is getting applied after the curve modifier. But if I change this stacking order, if I close this array, drag it and bring it above the curve, now you can see that this has created, this is taking this curve path. Say for example, I need 6 pillars and I want to construct a circular architecture. I will select this, and in the array, in the factor, I am going to increase the length along the x to 5. So now I got 3 pillars like this, or I will set the x factor to 3, and if I increase the number of counts like this, so now I got a circular structure with 6 pillars. And now I can just press tab and select any of the circular structure here. I will press 3, come into face selection mode, I will select this face, and I can press E and drag it to the top so that I can increase the height of my pillar. And then I can also press numpad 1 and come over here, and I will press tab. And one thing is here, for the curve I haven't enabled edit mode visibility. So if I enable edit mode visibility, in the edit mode I can see this. And now say for example, I will press Ctrl R and I will add one loop here at the top. Then I am going to press 3 and come into face selection mode. I select a face here, and if I drag it, see, you can see how this is going to create a structure like this. So I can just drag it and make it touch the other one like this. So now I got some structure like this, or otherwise I will press Ctrl Z, and now instead of moving it here, I will press Ctrl Z again. If I select the face on the other side here, and again here I will enable this in here, and now if I press E and move it, see, all this comes and submerge at the center. I will press E and move it like this, and if I press tab, so now I got a structure created like this just by using the curve and the array modifier. I will temporarily switch off this curve modifier here. I will just come into vertex selection mode. I will select all the vertices here, select proportional editing, select sphere here, and then I will press G, Z, and I will increase this circle like this, and I will slightly move it up and create a structure like this. I will move it up like this, and now if I enable the curve modifier, you can see I am getting some structure like this. So I will press tab and come into the object mode. So now I am able to create a structure like this using the array and curve modifier. So this is one of the example of using the curve modifier. And remember, here the axis is very important. So when the deform axis is x, I am getting this structure. If I change this to y, see how the entire structure changes. See, this is different. If I change it to z, see, the entire structure changed like this. And if I change it to minus x, it goes down like this. So I get a structure like this. So a reverse structure like this in case of minus x. Minus y, this is going to create a structure like this, and minus z is going to create a structure like this. So the axis along which the deform is happening is very important here. So right now here I will set this axis back to x to get my surface here. So I will press numpad 1, and I have created an architectural circular structure like this. So I will come over here, and I am going to call this as architecture, this group as architecture, and this is one example. Now I will come here and I will switch off this collection. Now I am going to create a new collection, and another example I want to show you about using this curve modifier is building a well. So for that, for the second collection, I am going to call it as well. And in this case, I will press Shift A and I will start with a cube. And I am going to call this cube as well main. So this is the main well body, and I will press 1 and come into the front view. I will see here, and I will press tab, and here I will press Ctrl B and I will slightly bevel it and add a bevel shape of around 0.2, and I will add 2 segments like this and press tab. So I have a structure like this. I will right click and choose shade auto smooth. So I will get a structure like this. Now the next thing is I will press 1 and now come into the front view, and I want this to be converted into a well. So this is one brick. This is like one single brick, and I have to place it in a circular path around a well. So for that I will press numpad 7, press shift A, and I am going to add a curve, a circle, and then I will press S and I am going to scale it, and this is the size of my well. So I will scale it, say for example by a size of, I will select all the 3 here, and I am going to scale it to around say 6 units, and then I am going to select my well main, and I will come into add modifier, and in the add modifier deform I am now going to choose the curve, and in the curve object I will come here and name this Bezier circle as well main curve, and then here I will select this well main brick again, and in the curve object I am going to choose this well main curve. Automatically you can see my cube went and sat here, and to make this cube run around here I am going to come into add modifier, and I am going to add generate array. Now when I add the array as it is after the curve, it is the array is creating after the curve. But if I change the stacking order, so I will select this array, drag it and put it above the curve. Now this is going to take the shape of the curve. So now I will come into the array and I will increase this number till I get one circular structure like this. So now I brought it here, and there is a small gap here. So if I make this number of count to 19, see it is overlapping. So I will make this and keep it at 18 only, and then I will press tab and I will come into the curve and I will enable this edit mode display, disable this proportional editing, then I will press S, and along the x axis I will scale it, and if required I will press shift and scale it slowly, so that as soon as it touches the surface like this I will stop the scale. So at around 1.05 scale I am getting a precise circle like this. Now I will press tab. Now this is one brick section of my well. So to see it better, I will come here, I will come to matcap, and I am going to use this structure. So I got a structure like this. Now I want the same ring to repeat some 4 times here to create or to move it along this z axis. So for that I have added one array, one curve, and after the curve I am going to come into add modifier, generate, and I will add one more array modifier, but this time the array is happening along the x axis. So along the x axis I will set it to 0, and along the z axis I will set it to 1, and now you can see I have 2 structures here, and I will increase this to approximately 5. So this is the height of my well. Now after creating this height, now the next thing is I want a curvature here to run like this around this well. So for that I will select this well main curve, and I will press shift D and duplicate it, right click to place it there only, and I am going to call this as well top curve, and then I will press R, and along the x axis I will rotate it by 90 degree. I will press GZ and I will move it to the top like this, so that it comes and sits here like this. So now I am going to create this arc, and when I am creating this arc I want this arc here, this should be a slightly an elliptical shape. So I will press 1 and come into the front view, press tab and I will select this point of this vertex and I am going to press G, and along the Z axis I will move it up like this. So I will press tab again. So now I got a structure like this. Now I want my bricks to move along this structure. So for that I will come back to my well main and I am going to press Shift D and I am going to duplicate it, and in the duplicate copy I will temporarily remove array 1, curve and array, all the three I will remove it, and I am now going to call this as well top. And now for this I am going to again add a curve modifier, and here in the curve I am now going to select the well top curve, and you can see now this has gone and sat over here. Now only thing is I am going to change the axis to Z. So when I change the axis to Z, you can now see Z is also not right. I will change it to Y and see. Okay, Y is fine. So when I change the axis to Y and I will GZ and move it, I will move it along the Z axis and see it like this. So this is fine. I will now come here in the add modifier generate. I am going to now add an array modifier, and you can see that the array is happening not correctly because it is placed after the curve modifier. So I will just close this, drag this array and put it above the curve, and now you can see how this is moving. So actually this is, I will open the array now and it is moving along the x-axis. So instead of x-axis I will set the x-axis to 0, and along the z-axis I will set it to 1, and or I will set it to -1 so that it moves to the top like this, and or I will just select this cube and press GZ and move it on the other side like this. So let it come over here and rest it on the other side here, okay, so that I can give positive value now. So I will set this Z to now +1, and now I am going to increase the number of count 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So for 15 counts you are going to get this curvature. So now I got the well top is also ready. So I got the well top and the well, and this is looking now fine. Now the only thing is I need a pulley here now. So to add the pulley here, I will press numpad 1 and come into the front view, press Shift A, and in the mesh now I am going to add one cylinder, and I am going to press GZ and I will move this cylinder to the top over here. I will press middle mouse shift and pan it up, and then I will move it here, press tab, and then I am going to press RY90 to rotate from this angle. Then I will press Ctrl R and I will add 2 loops like this, rolling the mouse. Then I will click twice, and then I am going to press E and along the press S and scale it down like this. So I will scale it down here, and I will zoom it here, and if required now I will press Z and come into wireframe mode, and I will press 1 and I am in the vertex selection mode. I will select all these vertices here, press SX, and I am going to scale it and make this wider here like this, and similarly I will select these two here, press SX, and I will slightly widen it like this. So now I got a structure like a pulley. So now if I press Z and come into solid state, you get a structure like a pulley here. Now only thing is I will press tab here, number 3, and select this face, with shift press select this face, and selecting both the faces I will press I, and I am going to now scale this down like this. Then I will press 2 and come into edge selection mode. I will alt click on this circle and then press EX and drag it here till it touches this arc like this. Then I will come here, alt click on this loop here, edge loop. Then I will press EX and I will drag it and put it on the other end like this. And if I press tab, now I have this pulley structure ready. So I will select this and I will name this cylinder as pulley. Now the next thing that I have to add here is I need to add a rope. And if you consider the structure of a rope, so for the structure of a rope, you might have seen the rope structure consists of multiple threads wound around one another. And to create this structure, I will come to Blender. Now the trick we use here to create the rope is, I will click numpad 7 and come into the top view. With shift middle press, I will just pan it in, and I am going to first press shift S and see that my cursor is to the world origin, and then press shift A, and first I am going to come into the mesh and I am going to add a circle. Only thing is, in this circle I will reduce the number of vertices to 8, and if I press Z and come into the wireframe mode, and you can see the circle here. Now as of now, this circle is one of the thread of my rope. Come here and first I will name this circle as rope, and then I will press shift A and I will also add an empty, and I will add a plane axis empty, and I am going to call this empty as rope twister. And now I will select my rope back, and then in the add modifier I am going to come into generate, and I am going to select the array, and I am going to switch off this relative offset, and then I am going to come into the object offset, enable object offset, and here I am going to select the rope twister. I will come into the rope twister now and see here carefully what happens. I will press RZ, and when I rotate it like this, so I will rotate it along the Z axis, say for example by around 90 or 90 degree here. You select back the rope, press tab, and now if I press G, and as I move this, you can see a copy of this rope moving. So I will move this along the X axis, and you can see it is moving diagonally here, and I will move it to a point here, and right now this single rope is very big. I will press S and I will scale it down here like this. I will scale it down to something like around 0.2. I will reduce the size, then I will press G and I am going to move it here and bring it to the center here like this. So I will bring it to a point here. So as I move, you can see that, press tab and come into the edit mode. Now I will select the rope twister, and if I come and select it, you can see the angle of rotation is 90 degree. Now I will select the rope, and only thing is, in the count, instead of 2 I will make this 4. So now I am seeing 4 rings running over here like this. So I will press tab, and if required I will scale it down a little more here like this and make it smaller. So I will scale it down further by around half the value. So I will select all the 3 and I will scale it down to 0.5. Then I will press G and move it and bring it closer like this, so that it is in a twisted way like that. Press tab, and now after this array modifier, I will close this array modifier. I will come into add modifier, generate, and now I am going to add a screw modifier, which we have already used this screw in the previous session. And now I will press Z and come into the solid state, and to see this better, I will just zoom out a little here. I will tilt it, and as of now, if I press numpad period, it will zoom in. Now here along the screw, I am going to just heighten the width of this screw here, and I will just zoom this out and see this. I will just make this height of around say 0.6. Again I will come into add modifier, generate, and I am going to add an array, and this time instead of in the X axis I will make it 0, and along the Z axis I will make it 1. And now you can see how this array is happening. See, you can see here. So now I am going to now increase the number of counts, and as I increase it, you can see the rope is moving up. So now we got the structure of this rope. However, I want this rope not as a straight rope, but I want this to run across the pulley. So for that, I will press numpad 1 and come into the front view, and now I am in the object mode. I will press shift A, and in the curve I will choose any curve. Say for example, I will select a Bezier curve here, and then I will press tab, press A to select everything here, and then press X and delete all the vertices. Now I will press numpad 3 and come into the side view, and now I will press Z and come into wireframe, and now here in the edit mode inside this Bezier curve, I am going to use this pen tool and I am going to start somewhere from here. So I will click somewhere here, one point, then I will zoom and you can see the pulley here. I will bring this till here, till the pulley here I will bring it. Then I will press here and I am going to drag a curve like this, so that I get a curve like this. Then I will select this and I will select this point and I will slightly adjust the curve like this. You can see the curve here. I will then come into the selection mode now, and I am going to select the point which I created here. I will press E and I am now going to drag this. See, I will drag it down like this, and I will select it, press G and adjust the angle like this. I will set the angle here so that it matches the rope, and then again I will press E and I will move it till somewhere here. Then again I will press E and I will come it to the floor level here like this, and then I will press E again, I will move it till here, and I will press here I will press R and I will slightly rotate it and make it flat, and I will select both of this, and then I will now select this and I will press numpad 7 and come into the top view. I will move this rope over here, press E and I will move it here, and press R and rotate it like this. I will press E and move it here, press R and rotate it like this, so that I am creating a structure like a rope twisted. I will again press it here, press R and leave it like this. So I have now created a curve which follows the path of my rope. So once I have created this path, I will press tab and I will come over here and I am going to call this as rope path. And next I am going to come into the rope, and for this rope I will close this array screw array 1, and I will add one more modifier here now, which is the deform curve modifier, and in the curve object I am going to choose rope path, and I am going to choose the axis as Z. So when I choose the axis as Z, you are going to see the rope is following my this path, and now I am just going to press Z and come into solid state, and you can see how this rope is moving. And now I will come into array 001 and I am going to increase this array here. See, as I increase the array here, you can see the rope moving in like this. See, it goes in. Can you see? So now approximately I will add some 125 or 110, and now you can see the rope moving from here onto the well. So if I press tab and come here and see this is the rope we have. In this case, we can even animate this rope and make it move around it. So to animate this rope, what I have to do is I will come over here, select this rope, press shift D and I will duplicate it. I will right click and place it at the same position, and then I am going to call this as rope back, and I am going to switch it off. I am having it as a backup, and I will come back to rope, and with this selected come to the modifier, and for the animation to happen I have to apply the first array modifier and also the next screw modifier. So these two modifiers has to be applied, and only then now I can now press G and Z, and as I move this you can see how the rope is moving. GZ I will move it here, and say for example for this animation I want the animation to start from here, from this point, and I will come into my animation tab here and I will move to frame number 1 here. I will come to frame number 1, and in this case I will come here and for this rope I am going to add a keyframe. Then I will move to frame number 100 and then I will press GZ and I am going to move it like this so that the rope I will move it like this so that the rope goes in to the well like this. So I will animate till here and I am going to add another keyframe here and I will set the range of this 1 to 100. Now if I rewind and if I play it, you can see how the rope is moving into the well. Okay, so now I will stop the animation, I will rewind it, I will come into the view and press numpad 0 to come into the camera view. I will come here in the view and I will set camera to view option, and then I will just zoom it out here a little. With shift middle mouse click I will just adjust the position of my camera here. So I will set the camera, say for example in this position. Okay, so I will set the camera in this position, and at this position I will come into the item, and here for the camera I am now going to come here, and actually the camera is inside the architectural group. So I have to enable it, come into this, you have camera and light here, select both, drag it and put it into the scene collection now, and then I will switch off architecture. I will select the camera, and camera also I will add a keyframe here, location keyframe, location and rotation keyframe, and when I move it even here I am going to add the keyframe for both. So with shift middle mouse I will turn it and I will add the view like this, and I will add the keyframe for both. Now I will rewind this, and if I play it you can see the rope is moving and the camera is also animating. Okay, so we have created this simple animation, and I am going to also select this light, which is I will just press numpad 7, come into the top view, I will select the light and I will keep it somewhere here, press 1 and move it to the top here like this, and come into the viewport shading, and now you can see the effect of my light here. I will come into the light and increase the intensity to about 3000 watts to make it brighter, and also I will just move this little to the top like this. And so now if I press 0 and come into the camera view, and if I rewind and if I play it, you can see the animation happening. I have to come into the render setting. In render engine I will select cycles, and then I will come into the render option here, range is set to 1 to 100. I will move down, and in the file format I am going to select FFmpeg video, and I will select the location where I have to save this file. So in my folder I will save this file as well_animation. I will click accept. And finally now back to render setting here, and the sample size I will set it to 128 for viewport and 128 for render. And now I will come into render animation, and you can now see that in few seconds this entire animation will be rendered. I will come to file, save as, and I am going to name this as 04_09 well with rope.blend file, and I am going to click on the save button. So with this we have concluded our session on this curve modifier, and we have explored some 2-3 examples, and in our next session we are going to understand about the next interesting modifier in this deform category, and that is the displace modifier.